listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Good morning and welcome to Old Town Cleveland here on WOOP FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.woopfm.com. And if you'd like to call us, Morgan, what's that number?
Ron, that number is 614-5553, or if you happen to be out of the area, 423-614-5553.
And Debbie Moore, good morning. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Ron. We had a fairly exciting week this week. We went up to Cherokee, North Carolina. We were invited up there, and we went to an archaeological symposium.
Nice.
Doesn't that sound exciting?
It does.
Yeah, we know all about LIDAR, ground penetrating radar,
drones, the rules to fly drones.
Magnetometry.
Yeah. Can you
Well, I
spell
got that
for me,
right.
Ron?
I don't know how I did. I'll never say that word again, right?
But actually, it was really a fun concert.
Yeah.
Symposium. You had to stay awake and pay attention. But I think the most exciting thing for us is Brett Riggs, which is a really big researcher in this area of the southeastern United States. I'm sorry. His very first presentation was about Charleston, Tennessee, about the Cherokee removal, and he was explaining the 1835 immigration map and what all the symbols on it meant and stuff. Of course, it being home, that was of great interest to us. We're going to try to get him maybe next spring to come here to Bradley County to give that presentation.
And we learned about flying drones and what you should and shouldn't do, and the license you have to have now, which has become a very complicated thing. And they said the best thing to do is go buy a $30 or $40 one and crash it a bunch before you go buy the $1,500 one. So it made
But they were
sense to
talking
me.
about rock piles, especially the rock piles in Georgia that are burial sites. And after a few hundred years, it can be quite this big expansion of a hill, and they can fly the drones, and you can see it so much better from the air than you can from the ground. Wow. And you don't have to crawl to the top to see if there's any markings on it or anything.
Example, they have
so it's a really fun
one rock grave looks like a turtle crawling out of the river.
Yeah. And you can't
right
see
there
that
to
on
the
the
river.
ground, but once you get that air, and they were superimposing a line, says, well, here's a leg, and here's the head, and here's a leg, and we were thinking, well, I would have never thought that out.
Cowpea Festival today.
It is. It's going on starting at 11 a.m. in downtown Charleston, Tennessee. It's free to get into the festival. There is a $5 parking fee, so fill your car up with people. Go on up there. There's lots of good things to purchase to eat. There's the Tennessee Trail of Tears will be up there in a blue tent fairly close to the big pavilion. There'll be music late in the afternoon, something for everybody, kids of all ages, and it's just $5 to park your car, and admission is free, and there's lots of good crafts and everything up there. Also, something that a lot of our listeners usually participate in is the Tunnel Hill reenactment down in Tunnel Hill, Georgia. It's $10 each to get in for everyone over 13. Saturday at 2 p.m., they will have a reenactment where the Confederates get to win. And tomorrow at 2 p.m., they'll have a reenactment where the Federals get to win. The Federal troops get to win. So they play fair. And Ron and I went down there, and it really brings to life that the folks up in Polk County said that they could hear the cannons from Missionary Ridge. And that's, lots of different accounts of that, said that they heard the cannons going all day. And after we heard the cannons in Tunnel Hill, now we know how they could hear the Missionary Ridge and ones up in...
And mark your calendars for next Saturday. you should be listening to Old Town Cleveland. But also the polo matches are next Saturday and next Sunday down at Benabout Farms. It's absolutely free. If you've never been to a polo match, you need to go watch one. It's a lot of fun. Get there early, walk around, see the grounds of the beautiful Benabout Farms and the beautiful horses that will be there. And then you can go watch and there's 6 chuckers. You'll learn what a chucker is later if you go down and watch the
The horses are the athletes.
yes, and
Or additional athletes.
Saturday at 10 o'clock, and then Sunday at 2 o'clock. I think they're playing. Is it Argentina this year?
I really don't know.
This is a national event, and
Or international event, actually. And we think probably the horses for both of these teams have been here for weeks. So if you see some people that aren't from the zip code around, that's probably where they're from. They come in and they stay and they train their horses on the fields. It's really a big deal. Also, our good friend Charlie was here a few weeks ago. The Sequoia Birthplace Museum's having their fall festival today. There is a small fee to get in there. And last week we had Ken from the Ducktown Basin Museum. Ron and I were listening to that recording this morning. He's quite the knowledgeable guy. They're having their fall festival today up at Ducktown.
So there were plenty to do today. And last night in the local area football, Cleveland got beat 33-7 by Knox Catholic. A pretty good team coming in. Butch Jones' son plays for Knox Catholic, and they've got a big lineman that's going to go to UT next year at Knox Catholic. He's a big man. He's not a boy. He's a man. He's huge.
So Ron saw something at the ball game he had never seen before.
They actually called timeout when a flock of geese flew over. We're not talking about 4 or 5 birds. We're talking about 50, 60 geese come in low over the field, and they called timeout. And after that group got by, they blew the whistle. And as they started the next play, here come 25 more. So I've never seen them call timeout for that. Walker Valley lost 62-55 last night. And that's not a basketball score. That was a football score. And so they got beat. They had tied it up with a minute to go. And with a minute to go, they lost the game. So with about 7 seconds left. So a tough day for that. Bradley was off last week. UT plays Indiana State today. And I guess that's just a warm-up game, I guess, after
in Knoxville.
Squeaking by one last week.
Will that be on TV?
I'm sure it is, but I don't know where.
Okay.
It's on ESPN. Today we got in a couple of guys here who are quite a bit of historians here, do a lot of picture work on Facebook, and I love their website because I follow it constantly and share their photos over to ours because they just got good things. Paul Hickman is here. Good morning, Paul. How are you doing?
Glad to be here.
And Jeff Pettit here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Well, I've just got to say that I feel like we're good friends, although today's the first day I've ever met Paul in person. And it's such a friendly relationship between the Old Town Cleveland sites and Cleveland and Tennessee history on Facebook, I think, because we just share each other's stuff and try to really engage the community. And we really appreciated that fresh, all those fresh pictures and stuff. We've been doing this for 9 years, and after a while you start, running out of new things to put on, although we are constantly looking for things and have people providing us
or
things.
people give us things. I don't know if we're ever looking, but
we're always scanning. We're scanning something all the time.
Local history here, and both of you grew up here in Cleveland, right?
Yes.
Jeff, where did you grow? Tell everybody who your grandfather was.
Well, my grandfather was Dr. Pettit, and he was an osteopath. And fortunately for myself and for the history of Cleveland, he started taking color slides in 1947.
Amazing.
And
slides.
the deal was, I had those in storage for about 12 to 15 years after my mama moved to assisted living at Magnolia Towers. And she gave me those slides, and they were kind of put away and kind of forgotten until I ran into Debbie one day, and I said something about, well, I've got some slides, And we started talking about them. She said, well, we have a scanner. And so she kindly scanned a few of them for me, and within a week I had ordered my own scanner, and
Rest
there you
is
go.
history.
Right.
Now, guys, we're not talking about we're talking about superior quality color slides. Matter of fact, I used your slides the other day when I did a presentation to the Rotary Club, And that's the head picture said, or the leading picture said, Dr. Pettit's Slides, and he had that great big giant car sitting over on 16th Street or whatever street it was.
Yes,
the big
yes.
old, what kind of car
Well,
was
that's
that?
where he lived. I'm not sure. I'm not a car
It's something
person.
odd. It's something
Right.
odd.
But that's where he
Huge.
lived, over there on 16th. And that house is still there, a beautiful home today. And I've got some actual sides of that house as well. So,
I think my favorite too is the it must be an Armistice Day parade, some kind of military parade, and there was a tank going down the downtown Cleveland.
yes, that was May 1956 is Armed Forces
That's it.
Day parade, I believe it was.
And there was a tank, but what's so funny when I realized when I put it up for the Rotary Club is that it's in reverse and it's going west on Inman Street and everything else is going east. the slide was reversed is what
Oh,
I'm saying.
yes, yes.
I had scanned it backwards.
I
I
had-
said,
I
I
had-
really think this one's going in the wrong direction.
Right, I did have to correct a few of those.
It's hard when you get in there. And they were also really active in the First Methodist Church. Your grandparents' First Methodist?
In the beginning, yes.
Yes.
The one, I've got construction photos of the annex that was built in the 50s as well. I think you've seen some of those.
Well, that's the pictures we used, and we were showing and we were talking about the buildings that you can see, the gas station in the background, which was, almost across from the Princess there. And when people were walking down the street, you could see the marquee of the Princess Theater.
Yes.
And I don't remember those old houses being, directly across from the church there, but some of the people in the audience did. It was they enjoyed them, and I had shown several of them to the retired teachers last spring. And of course, the ones from the church, there were people in the audience that knew almost everybody in the picture. I mean, they were going, oh, there's Mrs. Horn, and there's, Mr. Dooley's in those pictures, Ron.
Jack Dooley?
Yep.
No, not Jack. Was that?
Bill?
What's it? Miss Dooley's ice cream. What was his first name?
I'm not
Jack.
sure.
There were two brothers, is all I remember.
I don't know if I.
Once Ron says the wrong name, I'm sunk.
Paul, tell us who your parents were and about how you're going up here.
Yeah, my mom and dad, they're still living, Lindy and Brenda Hickman, and grew up here. I was always one of those people, I thought Cleveland was a great place and never wanted to leave, and very fortunate to still be here and do what I do. And I've just always had a big interest in the growth of Cleveland after World War II. The city completely changed, and that is fascinating to me, and just so many neat things. And
We were talking, we were down at Jack Easterly's house the other day, and when Laverne's sister passed, she got some outdoor tables that have a big piece of enamel laying on top of them. And I walked over and said, man, I remember when you could go through parts of Cleveland that somebody worked at the enamel plant, and the whole outside of the house would be covered with those panels of enamel.
Right.
You remember seeing that?
yeah, I do, and I know I had posted a picture
Yes, I remember that.
quite a bit, and I remember I had said, we used to see more of these, and there's still a little barn or shed off of part of Lead Mine Valley Road right there.
Yes.
And the only reason that I knew about those, because when I was a kid, Dad, that building looks funny. What is that? And he's like, oh, well, people that worked or had access to them, they would have blemishes or whatever. They would, instead of throwing them out, they were resourceful and made a building.
Well, when we sold my mom's house, I guess 2 years ago now, there was still an old picnic table my dad had built in the backyard that had a big flat piece of that enamel that had not been pressed on the top of it. And he always used it for dog houses, and that's what everybody did then. There was no use to spend money on stuff when you could get stuff free and legal. And he would always go get the little chips of wood from the chair companies too to burn in the fireplace because it was dried wood. Right. You've shoveled a few.
I have shoveled many of that. My dad worked in the chair industry for a long time around here, and he'd bring home truckloads of the wood, and then I would shovel it and put it in the fire.
And see, when I was a kid, when we had a stove at home, before Mom and Dad had the heat pump put in.
Yeah.
Occasionally, my grandmother worked at Cleveland Chair, and we would go over there, and you'd get a truckload, and it was great because you had stuff to play with. Besides your regular toys.
So
Wow, you made stuff
Oh,
out of
I made
it,
all
too.
kind of boats, and
Yeah.
of course, then that's where I got my nickname, Get Wood.
Get wood.
Yeah.
It was constantly Get Wood.
Well, and see, that's to me, that's part of what makes history fun.
It's thinking about those things.
Is I had not thought about that since I was 5 or 6 years old.
I
And
do
you-
remember you posting that picture now, and I think that same building is the building that always has the vultures around it.
Could be.
There's one big dead tree, and then that little building, and there will be a dozen vultures there every time you go by, buzzards, whatever you want to call them. But I always laugh because I think it's like out of a Walt Disney cartoon or something. And they've been there for years,
Yeah.
which is odd.
But that's great that you brought up the truckload of the scrap wood because I hadn't
'cause
thought about that since I was 5 or 6
there's a lot
years
of
old.
people at home now shaking their head.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, did you ever burn coal in any of the things you had?
Oh, I
No.
did. Oh, it's
I've been
nasty.
before.
Well, we burned some, but the problem with coal is you can't find it anymore. When I went to Oak Grove Elementary, when I started, they still had a coal burning furnace.
Interesting.
And so it was exciting when the truckload of coal came and dumped it out next to the cafeteria where the big boiler was right underneath the cafeteria, and they had an open flame down in there all the time. But that was a great place to play. On top of that, of course, it was oily and greasy if you've never dealt with coal. And it's hard to imagine tell a kid at today's age, have you ever seen coal, Morgan? you know what
Morgan's
we're
our
talking
test
about.
person.
Coal is a rock. It's got oil in it, and it
I
burns.
would say-
And you take that out to a kid and burn that rock, and they'll be amazed. But you got to be able to find some first.
20 years ago, I guess, when I was teaching third grade, it was a lesson in our science book. And we happened to be up at Ron's sister up in Rogers Creek in McMinn County, and I mentioned it. And somebody got in their car and drove to where an old house was, went behind it, found me a couple of lumps of coal and brought it back to me. And then I'd still hold it and tell the kids, this will burn, and they'd shake their head like, no, that won't burn. That doesn't look like anything. Well, I know, but it will burn. But it was, that was 20 years ago. We're still having a hard time.
Down at what they call 8th Street, Sheriff Factory Lane, I guess it is.
The Rayfields had a coal.
There's all kind of coal
Company
bins
down
back down through there that you would buy, and someone can call us and tell us exactly who owned all those things, because I don't remember. Of course, I don't remember my name anymore. Someone has had.
I remember my dad sometimes buying it loose in the back of his truck, and then sometimes it would be in big paper bags.
Yeah. Well, if you're rich, you got a truckload.
Oh.
If you're poor, you got a bag.
That's why we got it out
Yeah.
in a poke. That's why we got it in a poke.
Yeah, you get a bag of it, and but.
Well, and then I know older people that talked about when they were younger. Money may have been very tight, and I know some people that lived off 411, and they said that their mother would send them with a bucket to walk down the railroad tracks to pick up what would have fallen off the cars.
Ron's
That's hard to get your mind around today.
Well, wait till you hear this. Ron's Uncle Eddie went to school in Tinga. And, the Tinga schools, they are fairly close to the railroad track. And the teacher, at the beginning of the year, they give her one load of coal. And then after that, she'd send the boys with a bucket down to the railroad. Now, can you imagine a teacher today sending the kids to the railroad track to get anything? Jeff, I love the story about your grandfather's house. Is it over on Oak Street?
Yes, Oak and First Street.
Yes. And you recently
second
got to go back in it.
I did, and that's on the subject of coal. That was interesting. He had a fallout shelter built in his basement. I guess because he wanted to. He was assistant director of the Civil Defense, right?
Okay.
For I think 29 or 31 years. So I guess he had to set an example and say, well, here's what we need to do in preparation for the Red Scare and all that in the time. But anyway, yes. That building was sold to someone that converted it to apartments as it is today, and I managed to find the owner. And I said, when I had the opportunity, I did not take pictures. Could I go back in and take pictures of the house and of the fallout shelter? And he said, sure. So I did make a post about that some time ago. And one of the more interesting things I found was he had a coal furnace down there.
Mm-hmm.
And there were several really large chunks of coal that remained in a little hamper, I guess you call it. And he let me have one, so it's sitting in my garage. I would say it's about a foot square. It's
Wow.
a huge piece.
That's an antique now.
Right.
That's amazing. But now, so what were the walls built out of in this
Well, I
shelter?
think it's reinforced, I guess you would say,
Blocks?
well, the ceiling was concrete. Everything was concrete. The walls, the ceiling, and I assume it was reinforced with some kind of steel or something. I'm not sure about that. Seems like I remember seeing some edges of metal that were kind of there for reinforcements.
So the people who bought this, did they realize they had a fallout shelter?
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah, and
Maybe when they tried to put a nail in the wall, they realized.
right, exactly. They're like, well, this is not working out too well.
No. And so that was his office or his house?
That was both.
Okay.
On the east side was his residence. They called it an apartment, and it was small. He was never one for a big home or anything like that. I think that stems from coming out of med school in the midst of the Depression in 1931. That's when he came to town. So, yes, that's the case there.
Where did he grow up?
Kissaquah, Iowa.
Oh,
Say that again. Casaqua?
I think so.
How about it?
of course, that's what everybody says about Ooltewah.
However you say it, the way
Exactly.
it's going to be, because I have no idea where that is.
Right, it's up in the Des Moines, Iowa area.
Okay, I didn't
Okay.
realize that. Now, was your grandmother, was she from here? She was a Truett.
Correct. She's one of the pioneer family descendants. The Truetts, they were here in the 1830s.
Mm-hmm. They came in real early.
Right.
Maybe, real early.
Real early. They
Well, I believe, now, which was the first Truett here? Was it Levi? Do you remember?
Levi,
Or Levi's dad?
and I'm not sure. I don't have all the genealogy on that.
Okay.
But Levi was, as a lot of listeners will know that are in the Cleveland history, that he was a lawyer, and his brother was a judge.
Mm-hmm.
So during the Civil War, as we know, Cleveland was heavily divided, and Levi Truett, along with a dozen other prominent Cleveland people, were ordered, captured by the Confederacy to come make a statement to try to promote people to pledge their allegiance to the Confederacy. So he was transported to Mobile, Alabama, to a Confederate prison, and then his health was failing, and he passed away
Yes, he did.
after not being in custody for very long. So
And was he one of the bridge burners?
I don't know about that.
I think
I don't
he was
know.
accused of being a part of that. Groups.
I need to read. That doesn't stick in my brain.
I don't think he
so.
was involved, but merely they were just taking prominent people
Yes.
captive, you know.
He's buried at Fort Hill, and he's been one of the characters in the graveyard thing.
Yep. Hey, folks, you're listening to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. We got Paul Hickman and Jeff Pettit in here, and we're just talking about local history today. So call us and ask us a question if you have any memories of going to the old manufacturing companies here and getting wood, or where you bought your coal, or where your house was built, and if you had a storm shelter, and anything you want to talk about today. We're here, and our phones are open now. What's that phone number there?
That phone number they can call, Ron, is 614-5553, or if you're out of the area, 423-614-5553. And would you look at that? We already have a caller. You are now live on Old Town Cleveland, caller.
Good morning.
I've got a question. It's kind of a history question. I've done a little genealogy. Have you ever heard of a Black Dutch Indian?
Well, now I've heard of Black Dutch,
Okay.
and which would be the dark Germans.
Okay.
But go ahead.
A little bit. And they told me my grandmother was a Black Dutch Indian. and she was married to a German. So, well,
Who was your grandmother?
she was a Lingerfeld.
Okay. Well, that's out of my family. Yeah.
Man, you skinned it.
Yeah, there you go. Do you know anything else about her? She was from Polk County, Cookson Creek.
No, she wasn't from Polk County. They was from Cleveland. This is Blake.
Hey, Blake. Yeah, we need to talk about that because I think she was from Cookson Creek.
You know, that
They were in Polk County in 1840.
Blake, that also could be what known as a Melungeon. You know, those people who are darker complected and probably have blue eyes, and so
A mixture of, and there's some mixture of Indian in
They
there.
think they're Indian and Portuguese. I never say that one right, but Indian, black, Portuguese,
Jeez.
white. It's all mixed together, and if you go up, a lot of that's going to be up into the northern part of the state around Hancock County, where a large concentration of Melungeons, and a lot of them are here in Cleveland now. There's several. Matter of fact, I'll mention that Bobby Thompson, that played football over at Cleveland, graduated in '76, passed away yesterday.
And he was Melungeon.
And he was a Melungeon.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Well, I might be a Melungeon or something.
Well, hey, it's not a bad thing. That's kind of what I claim too, is that I call it Melungeon more than I call it Black Dutch.
Well,
But we need to get together and compare notes.
she's very Indian. You know, she looks just like an Indian.
What is her first name? Is it Elizabeth?
She was a Shelton, Sarah Shelton. She married George Shelton.
Okay. What was your Lingerfeld's first name?
I can't remember. I haven't got that far back.
Okay. Well, I can get you there, darling. Go with me. I'll take you. They're Lingerfeltons and Lingerfelters and Lingen something others, and they're all the same bunch of people. They just couldn't spell their name.
Yeah, I think a lot of times is, you know, the education level is when they took the census. The census taker may not be as educated as you might think, and they say Lingerfeld, and they write it down what they heard, and the person who was on the other side may not be able to read and write, and they couldn't tell you if they spelt their name right or wrong. So, you know, I'm a Epperson, Epperson, and it's been spelled Effesron.
A-P-P.
Yeah.
All right, Blake, we'll get together and talk about that, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bridge burning, too. I think I'm in on part of that, too, as some of the Sheltons were.
Okay, good deal. Bridge burning. Yeah, they were bridge burners. Bye-bye.
We didn't like bridges.
I don't remember who the bridge burners were. I know the Cates were.
Oh, yeah, the Cates were.
The Union crossed it.
All righty. Thank you. Bye-bye. Paul was talking, or you guys were talking about the civil defense. I think we've had people call on before and say that they remember as a child when you had to have lights out and the shades, you know, and everything, because you had to be prepared because they didn't know what was going to happen.
You know, I don't remember that, but I do remember having to do the drills and get underneath my desk. Of course, I was always a big boy, and that was a little unpleasant, but I'm trying to figure out how getting under that wooden desk was going to save me from a nuclear bomb. I'm going, isn't that flammable? I mean, and then get out in the hall. And, of course, the big kids always had to be in the back to cover the smaller kids. So, you know, I could cover 3 or 4 first graders real easy, you know. And but, yeah, get out in the hall. And I think it was just try to make us feel better. But
We have a windshield off of a motorcycle that's got the civil defense emblem on it
Oh, neat.
that we found in an antique shop. Antique store. I bet we've had it 25 years. What do you think? 20, 25 years.
You guys, I don't know how either one of you are. You're younger than me. Of course, everybody in the room's younger than me, unfortunately. Even you, Deb. She looks at me funny when I say that.
I am
Did you
younger
ever
than
have to take your polio medicine on a sugar cube?
Polio
No,
vaccination.
not myself.
You don't remember that?
We had to line up at Oak Grove School, and they give you a sugar cube with a little pink dot on it, and that was how you took your polio
Yeah,
vaccination.
I've heard my mom and dad
Mm-hmm.
talk.
Isn't that something?
Well, we found in Dr. McCauley's stuff, we found a newspaper article that was asking people to bring their kids to school and get them vaccinated.
All righty, let's get this caller. Caller, you are live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. What's going on?
Shoot, I knew we headed down there that one McKinney reunion again. We eat that chicken and banana pudding and all that good stuff.
If it's really good, it's nanner pudding.
Oh, well, I'm sorry I missed Chapel there. Just look, that sure is.
You was trying to make people think you were a city slicker.
Banana pudding is what them city dudes make. And that nanner pudding, boy, that's some good homemade stuff right there.
What's going on, Ed?
Shoot, I wish I knew. We just been awful sick lady, and we ain't doing much good. But I did get out. This is my 47th attendance at our reunion, I believe. And I told them I'm going no matter what. If I had to take an ambulance, I'm going.
Where is that reunion at, Ed?
Red Clay.
At the park?
Red Clay is there in the park, in the pavilion. We've had that thing rented every year for 48 years.
Well, we've been to the park a lot lately, and they sure have that place looking nice.
Well, that's good. I will go down and inspect it. I'll give you a readout maybe next week, Lord willing, everything feels good, right?
Well, I'm sorry that you've been under the weather, buddy.
Okay, lady, we appreciate you.
All righty. Bye, Ed. Thanks for calling us. Bye-bye. Now, if you ever want to know something out about up close to the Polk County line, 64 Highway, Ed's the man
Or
to call. McKinney.
Trevina School.
Right.
Trevina School, which was still in school in 70? think they
They had a
closed
daycare there, a preschool there in the 70s, but small school. It's given us some pictures from out there.
You know, there's only been 158 school buildings closed in Bradley County since it opened.
Oh, my gosh.
Can you believe that? And a lot of them are houses today, but some of them are gone. But we had Bunker Hill, Mount Harmony. Gosh, what's some of the other weird
Forest.
names? We had number 4 school. We never had a number 1, 2, or 3, or 5 or 6, but we had a number 4.
We had 2 number 4s.
We had the old number 4 and the new number 4.
What's the one out close to Clear Creek Road out off of 64? There's an old school.
That's probably Trevina.
Okay.
Okay, we got another caller here. Caller, you were live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. I have a question for Jeff Pettit.
Okay. Go ahead.
Jeff posted a picture on his website not too long ago. It looked like a big swimming pool with enclosed in a fence, and I've just been curious about that picture ever since. Did he ever find out where that picture was taken?
No, not conclusively. It was just an odd picture that was in amidst of everything else was from Cleveland, so I sort of felt like there was a good chance that it was local or near local. But we had a lot of contributions of suggestions and so forth, and no, I think it must have been a travel photo. Somebody suggested it looked like it was more southern. Maybe it came from Florida or Georgia or something like that.
It was really unusual for your grandfather not to make notations on a photo.
Right.
Just maybe a 1 or 2 little notes.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm really fortunate that he did label those as such, because a lot of people don't. As we well know, so many photos we have no clue who they are now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have a clue of exactly where the picture was taken, but that looks like the Knoxville Zoo.
I have no idea.
No, I don't either. Nobody suggested that on the post, but we're open for further investigation if anybody's got any ideas.
But it was a pretty fun picture to look at and to see the, and then when the people who really knew came in and said, no, that's not Phil R., and no, that's not this lake, and no, that's not
When I
this lake.
first glanced at it, I thought Phil R. too.
Yeah.
Hit my
It
head.
was the ramps that looked like where you would walk down into the water or maybe get onto boats and stuff. I thought, oh, God, could that have been part of Lake Winnepesaukah? I don't know.
I don't think it was Lake
But
Winnepesaukah.
it was a big lake. And what I think we were seeing was just a small portion of it. But it was a very interesting picture.
Yes,
but
it was.
unfortunately, we still don't
And
know.
also,
And that was one of those that I went to school with Laura McKinney, who is Rita Philauer's daughter. And Laura checked with her mother to see if indeed it was,
Yeah.
and she absolutely concluded that it was not. And I tried to search for some photos around the Knoxville Zoo, the Memphis Zoo, some Atlanta things from that time period. we couldn't find anything that matched up.
Atlanta might,
Yeah.
that might be another.
That may be I think there was a Centennial Park in
Park or-
Atlanta.
yeah, the zoo.
Even back then or something.
Yes.
So,
Well, my name is Rick Whitten.
yeah.
Oh, hey, Ricky.
Flown over that,
I've known him long enough. I called him Ricky. Hey, Ricky.
and I've flown over that Knoxville Zoo, and I've got a picture, and it does look like they did have a big
Oh,
uh,
well,
concrete pond back there. I thought it might be for washing the elephants.
big cement pond. Well, you've been posting some really good pictures too.
Well, I fell into some pictures from my
Mom.
mom and grandma and great-grandma that I hadn't seen in a long time.
Deb, you call him Ricky. I've called him a lot worse.
Easy now.
And he's called me a lot worse, too.
Easy now.
Rick, I certainly appreciate the different photos that you've posted about, sometimes one of my favorites was the Fock furniture fire photo. I just thought that was fascinating because I was in the car with my mother when that was going on. And
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
it just kind of takes you right back there.
It does.
Neat stuff.
Well, I've worked for the Cleveland Fire Department for 30 years. I've got a lot of those old fire pictures that have happened over the past.
Ricky, the picture that we post every now and then from, I believe it's from 70 or 71, and it was the old Lay's 5 and Dime, but then it was Brenda Frederick's dress shop that burned right in downtown Cleveland.
Yes.
Yes. That picture came out of J.W. Dodd's photographs. We had, he had let us copy it, or I believe Mr. Neely let us copy
Jerry
it.
Neely's.
Yeah.
Isn't that the one with the running shop?
Yes, it's going in.
there?
I need to get her a copy of that. I don't know if she wants a picture of it burning or not. But what you may not realize is there was another floor on there when it burned, and they took off the top floor and repaired it. And you can tell by that picture that there's different number of floors.
That makes sense, the roof line on that building now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Ricky, I know you and I lost a good friend here this week. Tell us real quick about Perry Ingram.
Perry was a wonderful fellow. I worked with him for 30 years, and he represented the Cleveland Fire Department well.
He could drink more coffee than any man I've ever seen.
He was a coffee drinker.
It'd be 100 degrees out, and he'd get him a cup of coffee. Yeah.
We really loved Perry and his family a lot. We faked to hear that he had passed.
They buried him at the National Cemetery there in Chattanooga yesterday, and it was quite the sight.
Well, someone was saying on Facebook, "Oh, what's going on? There's fire trucks everywhere." They were just waiting for Perry to come by so they could get in line.
Yes, they had from APD 40 all the way to Chattanooga. All the exit ramps and on the ramps were blocked off, and it was really a sight to see.
That's good. Well deserved.
Certainly look forward to more of your photo posts, whether it be from the fire department or those all those neat cars and boats and buildings and
All
things.
those
Those are just wonderful.
Pictures,
The hunting
all those
dogs is
dogs
what I
that your
wonder
dad used to
about.
have.
Yeah. Well, Jeff and Paul have survived the first few minutes of the show, Ricky. They'll tell you that it's not very painful, so you need to come in and do the show with us.
Well, I'm still contemplating.
Okay.
You're so bashful, Ricky.
I'm back.
We would love to have you come on, seriously.
And, I wanted to say, you got me whipped one time, or you did get me whipped.
Well,
There's silence. Did you hear the silence?
Oak Grove Elementary football team took on a bunch of guys, and we lost.
we won't go. We won't go there though.
No, but yeah, I got hit in the head with a rock. I said they weren't fighting fair.
Thanks, Ricky.
I enjoy
Hey,
both you guys' channels. I enjoy it.
thank you very
Rick,
much.
Nice pictures.
Good
Thank
talking
you.
to you. Tell your brother and sister I said hello.
Yeah, bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
That's good. It's nice to hear from him. He is posting some really fantastic pictures, and thankfully he knows who a lot of them are, and he's putting who it is, and so it's not getting lost. But then he has that picture, of the goat man that I hadn't seen before, that kind of stuff.
I think someone asked on your Facebook page, which is Cleveland and Tennessee History. So if you would like to write that down, go in there. And then we do Old Town Cleveland. And, of course, the library has a great picture thing. And then Bradley County Historical and Genealogical Society. You guys, I wish you'd come join us because we need young people coming in there and helping us run that. So there are a lot of pictures. Someone asked you on your site one day, I think it was about snorts.
Yes, yeah.
I have a picture of snorts.
No, it's not snorts. It's
Who was that?
That's who that was.
yeah. I
Yes.
guess that's right.
Snorts. You know, I have a picture of him standing. Now I could identify him from his elbow out, where he took his hand through that little window, and that's where
We do have
he
a
handed out
picture
the
of
whiskey
him.
bottle. But I actually got a picture of him standing outside with another person. I think Ed McKinney is the one that got us the picture. Matter of fact, I snort standing outside. I'd never seen the man, and I can't remember his real name now. Someone will call us
Hall.
and tell us what his real name is.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But
He's playing this great
arm,
guitar.
I could have identified his arm from
That was our
anywhere.
joke. Yeah.
That's
But
wonderful.
as soon as someone wrote that, I said, I've got a picture of him. And now either I've labeled it wrong or I don't know where I put it because I looked for days trying to find that picture of Snorts. And I may have seen it and didn't know what it was, but may have had it by his real name and I didn't know what it was. But, but questions like that are fun, we say, do anybody know Snorts? And, of course, then someone will ask you about Runyons and Nub Stevens and C.L. Pittner. And how do I know about all these? I know about all these bootleggers.
Yeah. Well, I know I was good friends with Sonny Johnson that had the collectible shop.
Yes.
And Sonny knew everybody, and Sonny was just an entertaining person and big personality, kind of larger than life. And I know he told me that somewhere past the railroad overpass, he said there used to be a rock. And he said you would place your order, and then you'd go back later, and there were some bonds or something, and you would go there and pick up your whatever you had ordered and paid for. I thought that was interesting.
I don't know where that is, but now in Buck's Pocket, down in Buck's Pocket Road, Buck's Pocket, that means all the money was in Buck's pocket, and there was a rock or a stump, I think it was there, and you put your money in there, and your half pint got put in there, or your quarter of moonshine.
Heard about some of those in Birchwood, too.
Now, and then, of course, there was a cab stand right downtown where a 5 Point Pharmacy is and a little cafe is. Right down there was a cab stand. And I think it was Buck's cab stand, come to think of it. And there was one cab that never moved. And you drove by there, and they'd open the trunk, and you get your whiskey. Okay. So, that was right downtown. I won't name some of the people who's involved in that. But, hey, folks, you're listening to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can actually see us and hear us there. And so, and this show will be run again on YouTube about Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. It's according to how quick we get it posted. The station gets it posted, then I get it posted. And in your best British accent, tell us what that number is there.
He hasn't had me do this in a long time. Anyway, the number is 614-5553, or if you're out of the area, 423-614-5553.
Is that the international number too?
I suppose.
Just add a 1 to that. Morgan is attending Chattanooga State, started a couple of weeks ago, and like I say, he's part of our team now, come in as an intern from Bradley High School, and has just become part of our team. We love to have him here, and he's got more voices in a few minutes. We'll do that.
I wanted to mention that Fro Daddy's having a yard sale across the street. Anybody wants to go over by the Shell station, he's got all of his junk dumped out in his
That could be an interesting. That could be interesting.
That could be a treasure.
I've seen his stuff that he has back here in the back room that he uses during the show. This is radio, and he's got, and now some of that
costumes.
Stuff,
we're going, I don't know.
Be careful what you look for. You may find it back here.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Jeff, we know you were or you still probably are, a digger of sorts.
Yes.
What is that one thing that you found that you feel like was probably the most interesting thing you've ever found?
That's a hard question.
It
I found
is.
so many things in the last 30 plus years. I would have to say that being a fan of the Civil War and studying that, and actually lived in Nashville in the battlefield itself, which is not a protected battlefield.
Ooh.
It's residential. I was able to get permission and a wide number of yards to hunt. So I guess the most interesting things I found was I found a Confederate position that had been shelled December 15th, 1864, was when the Battle of Nashville occurred. And I found some artillery shells. It took me years to find any, and then I found like 3 in one day. So those have always been intriguing to me. The technology, right? The technology is surprisingly advanced for the time.
Yes.
Well,
Is there any danger when you find something like that?
Well,
It can
yes,
be, yes.
there is. Yes, you have to. I paid somebody to deactivate those
There you
because
go.
I didn't want to experience the live artillery round
Yeah.
going off personally.
Well, several years ago, John Cook, who was the chief deputy at the sheriff's department, and I was a reserve officer there, and John and I were working in a recording studio, and he got a cell phone call and said, he said, I just heard one side. He says, yeah, it could explode. Yeah, it could be dangerous. I'll send Ron over there and get it. What time out here? Will you go send me something that could explode? And it was some kind of shell they had found, and the fuse was still in it, and so a little concerned about that. And so,
Great friends.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
hey, you know it. You're the best friend when he sends you to danger.
I'm going, no, I'm not going over there. He said, got me in some other situations too. But David Cook here in town is one of the probably premier diggers here, and his collection is massive. I mean, unbelievable.
It's really
And
something to see.
he has, the brass plates from, he has Confederate stuff too, which is a lot harder to find, the Confederate stuff, because a lot of those were just a militia, and you wore whatever you was wearing when you was farming.
Yeah,
So-
especially like in Nashville, the Confederate stuff is definitely more difficult to find because
Yes.
it was in 1864. A lot of those artifacts, the personal belt plates and buttons, had already been lost in the earlier engagements. So Murfreesboro, for example, is a better place to find more brass, so the good things.
Well, the best thing that I think John Cook and his brother David, David was a big researcher. He'd go up to the library and read all the dispatches. He'd just start reading all those dispatches, which now you can do them online, which is unbelievable. But he found where a mule had fell off Blue Springs Church Road, the road's still there today. It fell off at the highest point of the road going around there, fell off into the creek, and when it down there, it lost 2 boxes of bullets. But the mule was okay because it was a Missouri mule. This is all in the dispatch. So David wondered in February, him and John says, wonder if those boxes of bullets, the boxes would rotted away. What if the bullets still down there? Well, they went down in February, put garbage bags in the lake, walked up through the creek, and sure enough, they found a pile of bullets, 240 plus, still in a pile, laying there where it had fell off from the Civil War, and then they found some down there. So these were brand new bullets, never shot. It fell out of a box, and that was a big find. Of course, they've got other things too. David could walk across the parking lot and find some Confederate stuff.
You can tell a digger because where they go, they're canvassing the ground to see things. Now, there were pictures in your grandfather's that there's pictures of elephants in your grandfather's pictures.
Yeah, I think there's just that one.
Just-
I think it was somebody said that those were used in the circus.
Yeah.
I think
The circus used to come set up maybe behind where Acoy Middle School is now.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
right.
Didn't they
and
leave the
also-
elephant here?
They left one sick elephant here and got in trouble one time.
there was also on Ballpark Curve, there where the Boys Club is. That was the site for circuses as well, which somebody contributed that information.
Yeah. I just
Because
remember.
that was a ball field at one
Oh
time.
yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah.
The Negro Baseball League would come
Yeah,
there. I mean,
okay.
the big guys came there and played.
Oh, wow.
On the outfield wall, as you go up that way up to the graveyard, that's where my dad grew up, right there.
Okay.
And so he learned to play ball with the Negro Baseball Leagues, and they played a little faster game, and so he always had this mentality of playing it faster and harder. And when I was growing up, I had to do that.
Can't catch that ball. Oh, good. It just
Yeah.
knocked out 2 teeth.
Oh, that was great if it knocked out 2 teeth because it didn't pass you. You had to knock the ball down. It didn't go past you, and so hit you in the knee and your bloody lip. Great job. And I'm going, no, it wasn't.
Very good. Go ahead.
What's your greatest picture that you found so far? What have you liked more than anything? And boy, you've got so many of them out there. I love
Sharon's photos, Sharon Wade's.
Yeah, she contacted me and said, "Hey, I got some photos I think you'll like." And yes, she's got some really nice ones.
There's one, and I don't think she's posted it yet, and we have it if I can find it in my vast file. At the side of the service station there, they had, I don't know if they were actually attached to the service station or they're on board or something, these multiple raccoon skins that her grandfather had gotten. And
Right, I have those. I just haven't posted them
Yeah,
yet. Yeah, they're
I got some
very
from Charlotte
interesting.
Pendergrass too. It's got a bunch of those.
yeah, and then Ricky has some too, which was the thing back then. It's kind of like the fox hunts that they had over at Jackson Lake. Well, there's a video of that, not a movie of that.
Yeah, they made a lot of money off those raccoon skins. But, he had one barn there. It must have had 60, 70 of them hung up drying and all
They
that.
sold them. They sold them to Sears. They shipped them off to Sears.
I don't know.
Well, and I have heard Matthews talk about that too. That they would,
P-Dab.
that they would have the little tickets, and I know he's discussed that on the show here
Yeah.
before.
We miss P-Dab coming in. We understand he's under hospice care at this time.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him in a while.
So what picture do you think has been your favorite picture yet?
I have to give a lot of credit to Margot Steele up at the history branch of the library. My specific area of interest, and it's amazing how everybody's a little different. I love the time period, like after World War II through maybe the 70s to the mid 80s. Our town completely changed. We had the Keith Street bypass come in, and to me, a lot of the things associated with the businesses and the businesses that came and went during that time of expansion, that's fascinating to me. So pretty much anything associated with that time and that development, those are gems to me. And I know I posted one the other day, and I always try to give credit, where the photos come from. There was a really neat picture of Speck Hospital, and it was from a different
Angle.
a different
I have
angle.
not seen that one.
And that's the first time I had ever seen
I think
that.
we've got people digging getting the pictures out from under the bed.
Yeah.
Anyway, caller, you were live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, this is Ken up in Ducktown.
Hey, Ken,
Ken,
what's
how are
going on,
you?
buddy?
Oh, not a whole lot. We've got our festival going today, though. I wanted to let all your listeners know. At the Ducktown Basin Museum, we've got our Fall Arts and Crafts Festival that's going on right now. So if you're out and about looking for something to do on a nice Saturday, you should ride on up to Ducktown.
It's a pretty ride. We were up in there looking for the stuff up in Turtletown. And we took a wrong turn and ended up in North Carolina.
It's easy done when you're up there.
Ron said, I don't remember North Carolina being between Turtletown and Coker
Yeah,
Creek.
the Fields of the Wood is not in Tennessee, Dave.
Yeah. We were just lost for a few minutes, but we did take some pictures. So you guys, now is there a charge to get into your,
There is not. Free admission. We've got over 20 vendors set up with handmade items and baked goods and paintings and stained glass. And then we also have, food for sale. We've got a gentleman making barbecue that's on site. Now he's getting a little bit for that, and concessions out of our stand. But as far as walking in, it's no charge.
sounds good. Ken, we appreciate you being on the show last week.
What was the name of that creek we went up to there in Ducktown?
Fighting Town.
Fighting Town. I was dropped Deb off to take a picture, and I went to turn around, and I met a nice donkey. When I turned around, I was about a foot from the fence, and the donkey walked up, and I could almost touch him with my hand, and he talked to me for about 5 minutes. I just sit there and talk back with him. So I just thought that was interesting that you have really nice donkeys there.
Send that in Caprio.
Well, you know, I'm tempted to say so much right now, Ron. I'm gonna let it go.
We had so much in common. What it was there.
Well, that's sort of where I was going. I was asking, was it one of your relatives?
It's a donkey, and don't call it anything else. It was a donkey.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, my favorite picture out of all the ones that have been posted recently was the 3 little guys sitting at Cartwright's store.
Yes, that was Sharon's son, Rusty Reimer,
Uh-huh.
and the other two, I don't recall the names.
I don't recall, but you had their names.
One of those was Gary Milloway. I believe.
Milloway,
Yeah, and Rogers.
Rogers.
Jeff Rogers, maybe?
I don't know, but they just looked like a pack full of meanness.
Well, Rusty still looks like that today, though. Rusty Reimer has always looked like he could get into trouble at any
But
time.
they were just that iconic kids from that time, and they were sitting there and they were trying to be good and get their picture made, and it wasn't working real well, and you could see the little maybe a Coca-Cola sign behind them or something on the store.
A Dr. Pepper and a Royal Crown Cola.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed looking at that picture.
I found some old pictures the other day of the Community Hall Church.
Yes,
the
those
three,
were
I
very
don't.
cool.
I hadn't shared all of them yet, but one was dinner on the grounds, and there's like hundreds, and I love that photo of those people back through there, and then people out in front of the church, and then some other people started doing Community Hall Church. It was amazing how that small church over here on the east side of Cleveland had so many people go there.
Where was it exactly?
It's off of Inman Street, back in Fair Street, back around where the old dump would have been, back in there.
Okay.
But they were just, if you look at some of the pictures, they were just scattered small houses all back through the hills, back up through there. And but they had huge thing. I think there was got the pictures from Brett Holland's family, I believe it was, and I have a picture of his mother too. Which is, I love the old pictures of people's family, and I try to do that a lot over on Bradley County Historical and Geological Society. I try to post pictures of old families on there, and feel free to share over on that side also too, because
Well, thanks a
we try
lot.
to save history, and like I say, I share your sites quite often, and Margot's from the History Branch, and also there's another Appalachian America, and I posted that picture of the dinner on the grounds, and it just exploded over on Appalachian America. People going, oh yeah, I remember that happening. Like I've got a great picture of baptism at Easley Ford down near Tinga, and there's just cars everywhere up on the hill, and must be 400 or 500 people up there, and that was standing watching the people get
Speaking of
baptized.
Margot, I want everybody to go by the History Branch today. The Magnolia Garden Club has decorated the building since it's been remodeled. You can go in and see all the pretty fall decorations and say hello to Margot, and you can tell her that you heard us talking about her here on the radio.
And it was good.
And it was good. Bless her heart, she got hired, and they said, and the construction starts tomorrow. And I was there the other day trying to carry on a serious conversation with her, and some guy had a ladder and was up in the drop ceiling. Let's get this call. Go ahead.
Caller, you were live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, this is Marilyn.
Hey, Marilyn, what's up, sister?
We're just out cruising around. Ron was talking about that picture of Community Hall Church.
Yes.
And see, that's Whiteside went there.
Okay.
I looked real close at that picture. We might have some relatives in there.
Okay, I don't know. I haven't looked closely because I wasn't expecting to see anybody I know. Where was that church located, Marilyn?
Where the pilot station is on 64. If you turn and go north, it's probably 2 blocks over, and you go to the left. I could take you there. I can't give you the.
Okay, I was just wanting the general idea of the community because that's what I thought. I thought, well, I've passed that many times, but where is it?
And for some reason, 6th Street comes to mind, but I wouldn't bet money on it. That this may be an odd number that's floating around in my head. I've enjoyed the program. Mr. T wants to talk to you.
All righty. Hello? Oh, we lost him. Sorry, Marilyn.
Call back.
That's okay.
He's learned from me real well that I do stupid things like that. I've taught him how to do this, you know.
Go ahead, just keep talking.
Folks, it's about time for our mid-morning break here. We every week we had to let our sponsors have a few minutes.
1305 6th Street.
Okay, that's right in that area. I forgot what I was going to say. We play a song called "Gone Home" every week that we dedicate to those people who have passed away in our community. They're friends of ours. Of course, Perry Ingram passed away, fireman, and worked part-time for me when I was in the cable business. And he was just a great employee and a great person. His son and my son played football together down at Bradley, so known Perry's family and him for a long time. Also, Bobby Thompson. Some of you may remember him. He's 1976 graduate of Cleveland High School. He was signed to go play at UT. Some injuries kept him from going there. He passed away, and that's all I know. I don't know where he was. I'd seen him in Cleveland at the library, a couple of years ago now, but I had lost contact with him. So those are sad, and I'm sure there are other people in our community, and also a country music singer, one of the guys from Montgomery Gentry, the Gentry gentleman, died in a helicopter crash yesterday. So, and then, of course, our hearts are with people, all those lost lives for Harvey and the Texas area, and then all the problems we may be having coming up in Florida and coming up into Georgia, and maybe all the way up into Tennessee. So we think about that. But for those people who's gone home, this is a song by Jumpin' Bill Carlisle we always play called "Gone Home."
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Checking the cash, you got a brand new choice. Our flexible loans really making noise. Flex your money, my soul. Flex your money, my soul.
A check into cash flex loan puts you in control. Visit your nearest store for details.
Shape a flex loan to fit your needs. Make your next loan a flex loan and set yourself free. Flex your money muscle at checking the cash.
Some restrictions apply. See store for details.
Yeah.
Tired of standing in line to cash your paycheck? Go to usmoneycard.com. Company doesn't provide direct deposit? Visit usmoneycard.com. The smart and safe alternative to carrying cash. We'll provide direct deposit for your prepaid debit card, or you can deposit cash anytime. Your US Money Card is reloadable and can be used wherever MasterCard is accepted. You never have to worry about overdraft fees. Spend what you deposit. So log on, load up, and love your US Money Card, the safe and smart way to spend. Visit usmoneycard.com for complete details.
Matthews Pool and Spa Company, located in Cleveland, Bradley County for over 45 years. You know them. They're your new swimming pool construction and supply company in Cleveland, Tennessee, now with 4 generations of Matthews to serve you. Matthews Pool and Spa Company, for over 45 years, your swimming pool, construction and supply company, spa or hot tub installation and maintenance. Get all of your supplies for your pool or spa right now. That's the new location in the old Quinn Electric Company building behind KFC at 2724 Keith Street in Cleveland. Call Matthews now, 476-4521. You better get your order in now for your new pool construction for this spring and summer. 476-4521. Matthews Pool and Spa Company. Gonna jump in. Woo!
They have gone home. done. Gone home. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. Life here is lonely since they've gone before. Gone. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. The old weeping willow that stands by the door sadly sighs. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. They've joined the heavenly fold. They're walking the streets of pure gold. They left one by one as the work here was done. Gone home. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. They've joined the heavenly fold. They're walking the streets of pure gold. They left one by one as the work here was done. Gone home. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. Where'd the old town go? They moved it all north of here in a shopping mall. Where'd the old town go? Did my hometown get old or just me? Did all my friends get old or just me? Are they all gonna have to be told or just me?
Welcome back to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at what number in your best Martian voice?
Marvin the Martian voice.
Oh dear. Anyway, call us here at 614-5553, or if you're out of the area, 423-614-5553.
You see what he did in high school? He didn't study any.
Not a lot.
He studied cartoons. Okay, well, I wonder what other voices you got hidden there. What else do you do? Hey, I don't know.
We want to just mention to everybody, not to get everybody panicked, but we understand this storm's going to kind of hit us Tuesday. That's coming up like a buzzsaw through Florida right now. And while we would be just greatly inconvenienced, those folks are getting devastation, but you want to be prepared maybe for your power to be off for a little while, and be prepared to just take care of yourself for a little while. Because I think the winds are going to be high and it's going to be stormy. I know that this afternoon I'm going to go home and make sure that all of our outdoor furniture's hooked to the fence or something.
In other words, you won't be able to get bread and milk.
Right. Right.
You gotta have that bread and milk.
You got to have that bread and milk.
Well, bread and milk sandwiches just is not any good. You know, some bologna to go with it, some peanut butter or something. You know, I'm going, but bread and milk. You know.
But anyway, don't over panic. But just be aware that it's probably going to get a little windy and a whole lot of rain here.
A couple things going on today. We've got the Cowpea Festival started at 11 o'clock, so it's just getting underway. Runs till later tonight.
And I will have my historical maps for sale at the Trail of Tears booth. I know there's some local people that's been wanting to pick some of those up. It's a good time for you to come get those. The Tunnel Hill reenactment. The Big Boomin' will start this afternoon at 2 o'clock down there. Sequoia Birthplace Museum's having their big fall festival. They have the Katua Warriors there doing the dances and the live demonstrations of Cherokee arts and crafts. There's a little small fee to get in there. Ducktown Basin Museum, old Ken just called us and told us to come up and buy a hot dog and look at the crafts up there. They are in the Hoist House And if you haven't seen the Hoist House since they remodeled it, it's very nice. It doesn't have air conditioning, so that won't be a big issue today.
No, not today.
But the floor is nice and level now. You used to go up there and they'd have tables strategically placed so people wouldn't fall down. Well, it's really a nice smooth surface now. They've done some major remodeling.
And today we have Paul Hickman and Jeff Pettit here. We're talking about local history and, something that Paul's interested in is how Bradley County changed from the end of World War II until the 70s. So if you have any memories of how Bradley County changed, and I thought, just the population started booming as, of course, interstates come along eventually, not until the 70s, but, transportation was more, and I think we got out of the Depression, and soldiers are back, and things were moving along great. It was a great boom time for the country, and a lot of changes come here. I think Deb mentioned it during the break. Bowaters came,
Right.
and Bowaters was a big company coming here, and a lot of people that I know. Mr. Alley, who passed away, who had lived in Newfoundland, had never ate a fresh peach in his life.
Oh.
They were all canned or jarred. And we got here, he found fresh peaches on the courthouse square, and he ate so many of them, juice was running down the front of his shirt. He was about 17, 18 years old, and he didn't care because it was the best thing he'd ever ate in his life. Then he got in a car, which they didn't have in Newfoundland, and he got lost for about a week, just riding.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was just a wonderful time of change for our community. I mean, we had businesses that came in Bradley County, like Olin Chemical in the late 50s. And then, you had Bowater just across the line there in McMinn County. Brought in a lot of people. There was a lot of expansion. The interstates came. And to me, all those stories and pictures and things associated with that, it's wonderful. A lot of very entrepreneurial people and the businesses that they built. To me, that's fascinating.
Well, Key Street come in 1960 range, and of course the Village Shopping Center was built, and you guys probably don't remember the Inman Street did not go down to Key Street because it wasn't a Key Street, so Inman Street stopped back up where Cook's Food Store was. So that was added on there, and the Village was...
There were houses and things down in there, but they were connected by Harrell Avenue and all those avenues going north and south.
It was then where there was a drive-in movie theater where the Village was, and the American Legion was up on top of the hill behind that, up towards where you can see the ballpark curve. So
I know Ben Kaiser has told me about, they used to ride his dad on the Firestone Kaiser service, and he said they used to ride bikes down the steep hill of this, and that's one of the things I would love to see a picture of that. That's yet to surface.
I haven't seen I've seen a few pictures of where the road ends there at Inman, looking down that way, but I'm not seeing anything that's shooting back this way that you could see Inman Street or up that. So
a lot of it's not to show you that picture, though. It just happens to be background pictures, so they're not real good.
Well, and that's why we say here all the time is that picture's somewhere in somebody's underneath their bed, or in a drawer, in storage, as Jeff talked about earlier. All that stuff is just there, and it's just wonderful pictures. And people say, well, that would be interesting to somebody. Well, that to us historians, man, it may show that.
And the pictures of the little stores, you guys posted one over next to Mayfield School, Golden and
somebody
Fowler and Golden, was that the name on it? I don't know now. It was two family names, and someone else had posted it there, and I had never heard of that store or seen that store, and I thought it was so cute. The little man was standing there all, posed.
I remember that vaguely. I went to Mayfield.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's right. Mayfield. Second and third grade.
But, I think that it was easier then for people to be small business people, and their communities needed small business people providing things there in the community. And, we talk about the Tinsley family. We can talk about the Fikes. McLean's Funeral Home, Buckner Funeral Home, the Rushes, the people that did these local businesses.
Princess Theater.
Jeff, your family.
Bohemia.
Yeah. Jeff, your family operated several businesses, the Bradfords. What did they operate?
Well, there was Herbert and Hugh, and Hugh Sr. had 16 children. So there was a lot of people to, take care of. So I guess they figured out a way. And Herbert had a little diner called Bradford's Diner, and it was right across from the woolen mill, Hardwick Woolen Mill. And that showed up in the picture that we just spoke about earlier. And in the background to the right of that was the only picture I know of the diner.
And I think that's the picture that Teresa Ramsey Henderson found when she was doing the research for it may have been the Mount Olive or the Church of God Centennial or something like that. It's a beautiful photo.
Oh, it's a fantastic picture. And also, he lived next door to his store there. And I don't know a whole lot about it. I did speak with one of the elder Bradfords that lives up north recently, and about all she could tell me was that she remembers Hugh Jr. Worked for his dad at the diner, and he would walk across the street, and they had a bucket that they would put out the window from the mill, and they would place the orders. When that bucket came down, he would run across the street and get the orders, go across back to the diner, and then when they got them prepared, he would go back across the street and put the food in the bucket, and they would cart it up on the rope.
I love that. I love those kinds of stories. Back in the day,
That's a different drive-through window, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know a really neat photo that surfaced here not too long ago. A minute ago we were talking about Inman Street, how it used to dead end, and it was a picture that I found. And it was an aerial photo, but it shows the B.F. Goodrich store, and there are people parked on each side on Inman Street.
Yes.
Going the different ways.
That would never happen today.
Yeah.
That would be a major accident.
Yeah. Well, and then
there's a truck backed in.
It just messes with me too when I see the pictures of downtown Cleveland and the traffic's two ways on Ocoee Street. I'm thinking, oh no. It's much safer for everything to be going in one direction, or seems to be. Yeah. But there's some really nice, really early aerial photos that must have been made. Well, I think they were made from a biplane.
1900s,
1920s.
Yeah.
I know the ones you're talking about. Those are
fabulous. Are those great.
And you can see the area over here where the Starview was and all those different things before when it was just farmland.
Well, and I think the one that amazed me is the fact that that they have the you can see Dr. Thompson's house. It was next door to St. Luke's Church. And that was Nina Craigmile's grandfather that she was with when she got killed. And then they used it for the house of the people that worked at the church and stuff. But then it was just too big and awkward, and they tore it down. And now I see it in the pictures, and I think, oh, my gosh, what a huge mansion there was in downtown Cleveland.
And this is where that would have been where Dollar General and J.C. Penney and things would have been. Is that the same?
Well, it's part of it's inside the rock wall at St. Luke's now.
What was the house that was across the street? There was a very large house.
Oh, that was the Hardwick house. And it faced, it faced south, and it was huge. It covered almost that whole lot, and it was the Hardwick house.
Faced central, didn't it? Actually,
yes,
faced
central.
Okay.
And when they tore it down, it said something about memories have gone with the wind kind of structure. But there's some really nice pictures of it.
When did that house go
50s, in the 50s, when they put up the J.C. Penney's and the Woolworths and all that.
Okay.
So that whole block was that one house. And there was another Hardwick house that was north of there, like where the gas company used to sit, that burned to the ground, and that was like where I don't know, there's always a notation that was like where Frank Hardwick was born.
If you look at that photo, that particular photo, I think that we're all talking about is we always concentrate on the big items there, but if you start looking back towards the horizon and see how the landscape of Cleveland, there was up on the hill, there was basically nothing, and there was just house. Now you don't see as many houses in the down. Of course, Lee University has come through and moved their 20-year plan that started 35 years ago. I remember when they first laid it out in front of me there, and I said, "Wow, that's impressive." I think they've got it done now.
I saw one of these on the countertop at Couch's Barbecue the other night.
Oh, really?
It was sitting by the register. That's nice. He's got a card that's got his contact information on it and old picture of the courthouse downtown.
1960 or right around that time is probably one of the saddest things that happened in Bradley County is they took the wrecking ball to the old beautiful downtown courthouse and we built this pig that we got now.
You know, the thing of it is there, when you read those old newspaper articles, the water was seeping through the walls. They didn't maintain it. And then you had very little choice. Of course, they could put it back up something a little bit more attractive.
Yeah, we were going for that modern look and
progressive.
Yes. And,
well, that's it. We were trying to look progressive to get other people like Bowater to come in here, and it's a shame, but.
And I know Eddie Cartwright has been a great source of information about some of those early developments. I know he had, that was one question that came up. Okay, during the construction, where were the functions of the courthouse?
Yeah.
And he was, and he's like,
it was across the street from
this was happening.
Yeah, down at 5 Points, the Ramsey building.
Not the Ramsey building, the Harrell building that they're getting ready to tear down.
Matter of fact, Claude Clymer, who was running for county court clerk, was running against Bob Easterly, which I didn't know at that time that's who he ran against, but Bob Easterly was a county court clerk.
We said, well, Bob lost, but he won. He got a job you didn't have to get reelected to.
He was appointed postmaster by JFK. Used to it was patronage type jobs, and so he got appointed to the postmaster's job. And Claude, of course, stayed around for a few years, but he got elected, and his office wasn't in the courthouse. It was down on 5 Point, and then they had the process of moving everything back into the new courthouse. And the old courthouse was pretty interesting. It still had markings of the old
and it didn't
colored
have
water fountains, and
it was built prior to electricity and indoor plumbing, and they just couldn't. I hate that it was torn down, but I understand too. But some communities have managed to keep theirs. The one that's down in Chatsworth was built by a man that lived here, and we had quite the famous brick mason here. I can't remember his name now.
House was down on
his house was down next to
Central.
Was on Central Avenue next to behind the Elks Lodge. But you see those triangular shaped little things of brick around the top of our buildings. I think those are his trademark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, you're listening to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. We got Paul Hickman and Jeff Pettit here. We're talking about local history. If you got any input, just give us a call at what number?
614-5553, or if you happen to be out of the area, 423-614-5553.
And we do appreciate all of our callers. We know we keep inviting them to go to all these festivals today, and
they're all on their way.
Yeah. But give us a call here at 614-5553. And like I say, if you missed this show today, or
if you're not listening
right now, or if you just tuned in, you can see all of the show and hear all of it later this week on YouTube.
I wanted him to finish that sentence. Anyway, caller, you are now live on Old Town Cleveland.
Morning, Ron. I'm just enjoying the show, and just wanted to call in and say how much I enjoyed both the Facebook pages, Old Town Cleveland and Cleveland in Tennessee History.
This would be Neil Allen, that when there's a car on there, he'll post what shape the tail lights were and what kind of the engine it had. And
yeah, I know all kinds of stuff that doesn't matter.
Hey, Neil, on that Community Hall Church picture I posted a week ago or so, had two old cars out in front of it. Do you know what those were?
I'm trying. One of them, if I'm remembering the correct picture, one of them's an A model.
Yes.
And the other, I don't recall.
It's some kind of coupe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd have to look at it to remember. I know one of them's an A model. The other one I didn't look at it that close. The other one may have been a Chrysler product. I'd have to look to see. But I think it's neat that the two pages share back and forth.
I think so too.
And I reckon you have to get a little age on you to appreciate seeing all that stuff that I do.
Now, Neil, we were talking a couple minutes ago about family operated businesses. What all did your dad do? Your dad's business, did he just have the garage?
Yes, yeah, for 30 something years. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. He had the garage down behind the Sugar and Spice.
Right on South Lee Highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to have it raised, had a fire in it last October, and it had to come down.
Yeah, yeah.
I hate to see it go that way, but...
Well, it happens.
You still got the record, don't you?
Yeah.
Tell us what that record is.
Well, it was a 42 model Dodge military truck, what they call a personnel carrier. And then it has a really early Holmes record unit on it. As a matter of fact, back in the teens, and it was originally hand operated. Daddy engineered and made it power driven off the PTO of the transfer case.
And it would go just about anywhere it needed to go, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
It would go just about wherever you needed it to go, right?
Yeah, it was the only 4-wheel drive record around. It was 4-wheel drive and had a big winch on the front too, so if it wouldn't go, you could drag it.
Well, now, one of the things that I wish you had pictures of was all the posters in your daddy's garage.
Well, I know where you're going with this. And this was common back in the 50s and so forth. He had a major part of one of the walls covered with calendars and had some rather nice looking women on them. And that's, you couldn't do that now, but they did that back then. And I made him keep one when he closed the garage up. I've got the first issue of Marilyn Monroe on the calendar. And I did a little research on the internet, and the original one, the very first issue, there was no date on it. And this one is not dated. The picture's not dated. It's not in great shape, but it's all there, if you know what I mean.
It's all there.
Yeah, it's all there. And I made him keep it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, if you quit rubbing on it, it wouldn't be going away.
No. Yeah, I had Paul there in school when he was just a tow-headed kid.
Yep. Those are very good memories. And the Allens have been lifelong friends of our family, and good influences, and taught you a lot. And I appreciate that.
I talked to your Sunday school teacher this morning.
The kind words, where did I send the check? No, I'm enjoying the show, and just wanted to call in and say how much I appreciate both of the Facebook pages and all the pictures and information.
Thank you. Hey, you need to start posting some more car pictures.
Well, yeah, I've got some more I can. I just haven't yet.
It's a little bit more work than what people think it is.
Well, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I'm not used to doing that. I just never had to put anything on there like that. And just took a notion to.
Well, and I would certainly, just because I'd always heard about your mom and dad, and knew your siblings and different things, and you guys were always around family. It'd be neat to just see more family photos, and I encourage everybody. Post pictures of your family on the site, cars, anything, street scenes, because it spurs conversation, it spurs memories, just like we had a conversation here earlier today. It made me remember something from when I was 5 or 6 years old. It's like, oh yeah, those are neat things to me.
Neil, where did you guys live?
Fairway Drive. In other words, where the old Sugar and Spice was, and then the Rebel, the street that goes up between those two.
You played on the golf course as your big playground, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, our backyard literally just ran on out into the number 5 fairway. And we played football, baseball, and everything on the number 5 fairway, right by the number 5 green. And we, you know, had the good sense when golfers came through, we got off and we were quiet, you know, while they were putting and everything. And we never had, out of all the years we played on the golf, we never had not one complaint or anything. You know, we used it, but we sure didn't abuse it. And, yeah, that was part of our playground. Of course, you'd walk out in the backyard and pick up golf balls. I mean, it was just common, you know. And then you'd resell them to the golf. And if you found what you wanted to find was a brand new Titleist, you know, with not a mark on it, or a Dunlop, they brought the best money.
What, a whole nickel?
No, I don't know what they cost back then. I don't know what they cost now. But a brand new Titleist or a brand new Dunlop, they'd pay you $1.25.
Wow, that was big money.
That's better than picking up bottles and turning them back in.
It's like picking up money. You were picking up money.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I say, a flawless Titleist or Dunlop, that's what you wanted to find.
Man, oh, man. All righty. Well, Neil, good talking to you.
Well, and Neil, I'm going to have one request. Post a picture of your first car and give us the story behind that. I'm sure that'll be real interesting.
I don't have a picture of it. It was a 1960 Volvo 544.
Imagine that.
That I bought from my dad for $200. He found it, and then I bought it from him, and I'll never forget when he took the $200 out of my hand. He looked me right in the eye. Something I already knew, but he wanted to make darn sure I knew and understood it. He took the $200 out of my hand. He said, "Now there it is, and all that goes with it. When it tears up, you'll learn to fix it."
Yeah.
And it did. I did.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected anything else.
You know,
Enjoy the show.
Thanks, Neil. Bye-bye.
Good to talk to you.
Well, we were in Hardee's this morning, and I talked to a former Sunday school teacher of yours.
Oh, dear.
Yes. Willie Matthews? No, that wasn't the Matthews.
Willie Chase?
Willie
Chase, thank you.
She's a fine lady.
Yeah, she was laughing about
She
it.
was Willie Cartwright at one day.
All righty. We have another caller. Caller, you are now live on Old Town Cleveland.
This is Laura Pettit. This is Jeff's daughter, and I was just calling because I want him to tell the story of the day that he called me when I was a student at Lee University and said, "Hey, Laura, I want you to come up here to Taylor Springs. It's only going to be about 15 minutes. I just want to show you something." And it took me about 3 hours.
That's how it goes with us historians.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Very correct. Well, being a digger, I'm always looking for someplace to look, and if I see where a bulldozer's been, well, I walk over it and go from there. Well, I happened upon the site on First Street where the Taylor Spring is set to be
built.
The park. And noticed there was some glass laying around, and I started scratching around with a shovel, and I hit a small pocket of bottles. And so I thought, well, she'd love this because she loves this stuff just like I do. And I thought, well, I need to go find her. So long story short, I went and got her, and I said, "Hey, it won't take long. We'll go down here and scratch around a little." And she shows up in short pants and a tank top, like she's going to the beach or something. And by the time we got out of there, she looked like
She did mud wrestling.
Anyway, she did get to, or together we got to dig up some bottles. They were not particularly old. They were about turn of the century, or the last century now. Some soda bottles and just some storage bottles in general. And so that's how that happened.
And I've been on an adventure with Jeff and Laura. Laura's a hard worker.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So when he says a few minutes, you pack a lunch, Laura?
No.
You just know it's going to take a little while.
My wife is the same way. I need to run over here and take a picture. And she didn't mention it was in North Carolina and South Carolina, and just take a few minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and once you get your adrenaline going, you just want to keep going. You forget about everything else. That's how it works for us.
Real quick, that where the spring is, with the store, there was a store building above it. It was Ganaway's hardware store, and he had leather shop in there, and you walk in there, it smelled like saddles, and I always wanted to buy a saddle, and I figured the horse would come later.
He liked the way the saddle
part.
smelled. He just
But
wanted one.
Mr. Ganaway took the water out of the spring and ran it through 2 car radiators in the back of the store and had fans behind it, and that's how he cooled his building, with the water out of the spring running through radiators. And then up in front there was a water fountain that there was no pressure on it. He called it the bubbler, and it just bubbled spring water all the time. And so it was cool, and so he didn't cool his water, and he didn't air condition the building because the radiators actually took care of it.
Okay.
How's that?
That's super neat. Well, thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye. And if you go to YouTube and put in Ganaway Hardware, there's a little short video in there from right before they closed the store of somebody stitching leather, and they're showing the fancy new GE display, but what you see also are the metal buckets and things up on top of the old stuff.
All righty, phone lines are running hot today, aren't they?
Yes.
Anyway, caller, you're now live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah. Morgan, this is Joe. I want to speak with a big boy and
What?
and my little friend.
What's going on?
Well, you was talking a few minutes ago about that Bradford restaurant.
Yes, the Bradford restaurant, yes.
Bradford's Diner.
That was a restaurant I was trying to tell you that morning, and that lady said I had the wrong restaurant. Well, I knew Juanita.
Okay, well, tell us about that restaurant.
I used to go down there and eat all the time, and I loved that family and all, and so I do remember that. But now there's some of this other stuff that they talked about. I don't remember that, because I haven't lived here that long.
Because you drunk too much Jack Daniels.
Pardon?
You've drunk too much Jack Daniels. That'll make you forget a lot of things.
Oh, well,
What are we talking about?
tell you what I'll do. If it makes me start remembering better, I'll quit drinking it.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
Yeah, maybe I ought to stop by now.
Drinking it, if you'll quit buying it for me.
So you remember Bradford's Diner then?
Oh, yeah. I liked the whole family. They were just wonderful and all. And Juanita was so pretty. Oh, she was pretty. And but I'd go there and she'd have the best meals cooked every day, and they'd take that little close to the wooden meal. And all.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it one day it'd come around, so here it is.
So now, what kind of food did they have in there?
What kind of food?
Yeah.
They had most anything you wanted. She cooked a lot of that.
So was it like a meat and 3 vegetables, things like that?
Yeah.
Oh.
And all.
Meatloaf?
Oh, yeah.
Fried chicken? Oh, I'm getting hungry just saying here now.
Well, thank you, Joe. That always means a lot when somebody comes in and remembers your relatives.
Yeah, thanks for that information.
Well, anyway, I've enjoyed these couple of guys. I don't know them.
Well, we might have to have them back, and you'll get to know them better.
Yeah, we appreciate your stories. I mean, and input. That's always good stuff.
They've talked about so many different things,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember some of them.
Hey, Joe, did you get here in time that the passengers were still taking the trains out of downtown Cleveland?
No.
No, okay.
I don't remember nothing about that.
You don't remember that. Okay. Well, you have a great week, and thanks for calling.
Well, you and Ron do the same thing, and thank you so much for what you do for me. And you listen to me, or I think you do, without that thing of kidding me all the time.
Who are you again?
You do that every Saturday morning. I can't get mad at me.
We love for you to call anytime.
Well,
And we done got your song loaded in for later.
I love you both.
All righty.
All right,
Love you
Joe.
too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Do the same.
Bye-bye. Every now and then she'll not call, and we get worried about her, but she just,
Well,
it's that drinking.
She passes out, and she can't call.
We were talking about the Ganaway store.
Oh. We got another call.
We have
Okay.
another caller.
Hold that
story
thought,
will have
Paul.
to, that story will have to wait until after this caller, who is now live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello?
This is Neil again. Just so Ron's mind will rest easy, the other car in that photograph is a 1937 Plymouth.
All right.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's. I know you'll sleep easy now.
Well, I'll know what it is now, but I'll forget tomorrow, so you can call me again next week, and I'll be happy to know the information again.
All righty, I'll let you go.
Thank you, Neil.
Uh-huh.
One thing, Neil can definitely, he's our car guy, you know, and we did a documentary about dirt track racing, and of course Neil was involved in watching and saying, well, that's that kind of car, and he knew who the guys were driving it, and it was just amazing the help he could give in there. And he likes my chili.
Yeah.
But he wants a lot of crackers. Neil likes
If Neil's
crackers.
coming over, I buy a whole extra box of crackers because the boy likes crackers.
And Neil, we're getting ready. We're getting ready to make the announcement. We're going to do Dirt Track Live 2. It'll be about the Knoxville area dirt track.
Oh, wow.
And there's some of the stories.
Some characters up there.
And if half their stories are true, or even half of the story is true, it's going to be great.
We had one old fella say that he ran off the track, and as he was running off the track, something hit his car and kind of made the grass catch on fire. And then he ran into a house, and the fire got to the house. They ended up a house and a garage and the car and
barn,
the grass and the barn was all on fire.
Oh, my goodness.
I thought, yeah, we need to
Now,
write his name down.
Basically, it could have been just the grass on fire, but the stories got bigger over the years, you know. So
And
that's
the cars get faster and the women get prettier.
Yeah, a minute ago we were talking about the Ganaway store. You know, that's one of those businesses, you know, that everybody remembers or talks about. You know, how many businesses have a spring in the bottom of it?
Right,
I mean, it's
right,
really
right,
neat.
Right.
Because that later became Mr. Webb's office. Were any of those items retained as far as the spring and all those things, or was that stuff just sort of sealed off, or do we know?
The spring was just underneath the building there, and basically
They
that's
had a
what
pump
happened
on it.
Okay.
That's what happened to the building. That
I don't really know.
and that's why the building got in poor condition because of the moisture.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but no, I don't think anything. The Ganaways, the daughter and the son are still alive, or was.
Her name was Mrs. Buckner, but it's Mrs. something else now. She was a teacher at Bradley High School,
Yeah.
and her brother came from Maine or somewhere and was on the show
Yeah,
with us
and,
one day.
oh, neat.
And they told great stories about just, it's when your family owns a business that long, there are great stories.
Not a lot of pictures of Ganaways. You know, that little video is the only thing that I have found
I
of
think it's-
Ganaways, but I'd love to see some pictures, the front picture of the Ganaway or the good picture
We
of the
were
Ganaway
very
sign.
amazed when we started doing the restaurant documentary at the lack of photographs. And people said, well, it was just our family business. We didn't think to take a picture.
Right.
You know, and it was kind of like before the pictures that were in the yearbook that are so good starting in the early 60s. Let's talk for just a moment about, I know that you have posted some fabulous pictures of the train and the train depot.
Yeah.
I'm so tickled that we saved our depot.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather for it to be a museum, but I'll take it as a little bus depot. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know. Any particular interest there?
Well, I was one of those kids. My grandmother worked at Cleveland Chair Company, and she was there from like 1954 to 2004, something like that. And so, you know, we would go and sit and wait on her to get off work. Well, there were trains, and when you're a kid, trains are fascinating. They're still fascinating today, you know. It doesn't bother me to get stopped by a train.
Yeah,
I'm one of those kind of people. And
That's how I learned to count.
And then
when you sat at the railroad crossing and the train went by, you counted.
And then, as I got a little older, I had the fortune of Bill Robinson, who was the station master later on. He was my Sunday school teacher, and my mother would drop me off every so often, and I would spend a Saturday over there. I got to ride in a train engine. We switched cars going into Magic Chef at that time. That would never happen today.
No.
And
there'd be so many regulations against that.
Sure, but to me it's fascinating just because I'm fascinated by business and expansion. It is so neat to, you can see remnants of the old tracks that used to go certain places. And thankfully, if you have a question about something like that, you can kind of post it on the site that thankfully Jeff and Laura started. And, somebody say, hey, that rail piece used to go into Cleveland plywood that was
Okay, boys,
in that lot.
this is what we need to be looking for. About 1925, they built the underpass. Before that, it was just a wooden, like a little, what it would look like to hold up all that weight. That would be the wooden cross beams and stuff that held up the train. And somebody said, hey, we should make that an underpass. And that's when the underpass was built. I've never seen a picture of it as just the wooden trestle that's under there. So we need to be looking for that.
Okay. And I do know where the street that they closed off, there used to be a large building right there. I've seen that in an aerial photo. Do we know what? Was that
It
an
was
office
the Lincoln Theater.
Yeah, probably the Lincoln Theater.
The Lincoln Theater was the theater for the black folks.
Okay.
And it was right behind, like, across the tracks from 5 Point Pharmacy. And then over on the other side, on the
Coffin Company and Argus Lumber.
Right. Heard some fun stories about the casket company.
Oh, yeah.
Would
Well,
ride down the line and scare people. And
There's also a bowling alley down there. Jolly Jack's.
Yes, there was.
You're
Now, I
right.
believe
And that was in the Tarver distributing building, wasn't
I
it?
think so.
I heard my mother say
We've had folks that have been the little pin boys that pick the pins up. Let's get this call. Go ahead.
Alrighty, caller, you were live on Old Town Cleveland.
This T-Bandy.
Hey, T. Bandy, what's going on?
I got a fish truck coming the 23rd.
23rd of September at the Southeastern Bradley Farmers Co-op, whatever we're calling it.
And
What number do they call if they want to order anything?
478-2405.
All righty. Y'all need fish, and we're not talking about fish and hush puppies. We're talking about fish for your pond.
I need a crowd.
He needs a crowd. And is that your birthday?
23rd?
Yep.
My birthday, yeah.
Yep. Well, he's going to get a fish truck for his birthday.
Be 84.
84. 84 years young.
Don't look a day over 94.
Yeah.
Bye, T. Thank you.
Have a blessed day.
We're sorry we hung up on you. Bye-bye.
And that's the Arkansas Pond Stalkers is who brings it. I thought that'd be a great name for a bluegrass band. The Arkansas Pond Stalkers.
That's great.
T. Bandy used to drive a truck for Bunny Bread. You guys probably don't remember Bunny Bread, but
I've seen advertisements.
Bunny
Well, you
Bread
can find it in
delivered
Pigeon Forge.
Okay.
Yeah.
actually delivered bread to your house, and there was a few other items too. And he actually drove one of the Bunny Bread trucks.
Lord, I'll look at me.
And the people used to come by and get your diapers and clean them for you too.
Yeah, yeah.
There's one thing you don't have, and I'm really proud that there is no more
we've had
such thing as diapers.
We had a mystery solved this week. The giant nutcrackers from down at Red Ribbon on Central Avenue that belonged to Miss Kaysen disappeared. And they were both about 5 foot tall. And she and her husband, Flavis, had gotten them on a special trip, and she was really heartbroken. Well, somebody was not smart enough not to post them on the yard sale site on Facebook. And she had put a picture of them on Facebook to remind people that they were missing. And so they have been recovered. And they're back at the shop, but she's going to put the old fellers inside this time. She's not going to let them stay outside. So anybody that's been following the continuing saga of the missing giant nutcrackers, it has been solved. And the fella says, well, he don't know how those got on his front porch. But I think he might be in a wee bit of trouble.
Could be, yeah. Talking about the downtown Able Hardware, that's where, matter of fact, Claude Clymer had a watch repair place there. If he was injured, he went to watch repair school. So he actually sat across the street from the courthouse and repaired watches inside Able Hardware.
Interesting. And
then he ran for office, and I don't know.
Won the office.
And he's every once in a while he'd still go back over and fix some watches. He told us,
But we had long-term people. The Ables were in business. Stampers has been in that location for over 85 years.
Oh my goodness.
And they still have, if you go in and ask them, they'll show you. They used to have it marked on the floor with nails where they would pull the chain out and measure it. And when they remodeled, they just left that there.
That's neat.
As a nice
Well, there's another interesting note about that. The Ramsey Building.
Yes,
I think in
that's
the early days it was called the Roberts Building.
Yes.
Well, that's where Dr. Pettit set up his practice.
Oh.
It was on the top floor, and he also had an apartment up there as well.
And that's where that picture of that sign came from, isn't it?
Yes.
Which sign is that?
So, Joe Stamper, thank you if you're listening. Let me go through there recently and took pictures of where the office was. And it's real interesting if you go up there and look around, you see that there's doorways that don't seem to make any sense. And that was the examination rooms and hallways and so forth. But I've got some pictures that I'm going to post at some point.
Very interesting. You know, we have that great picture of the fire department practicing with that brand new gizmo called a giant ladder.
Yeah.
They have it pulled up with a horse and buggy, and the ladder's up on they were having just tremendous fires at that time. Of course, all the buildings were wood.
Yeah, that picture of in dirt roads.
Dirt
up
roads,
there and all that.
absolutely.
It's a great picture.
And a great crowd had gathered to see the fancy new ladder. Of course, that was the same building Mr. Horner was in, and he was the captain of the fire department, and do you guys remember the old clock that used to be outside Horner's? I do not remember.
That.
It's just a vague memory to me, but the picture that I took in the Horner's office not too long ago and reposted was him sitting next to this clock that says something about come by Horner's and set your clock.
Neat.
Yeah.
Well, and if I remember correctly, isn't Dr. Horner's office, isn't that that's one of the longest continuing medical practices in the state of Tennessee?
It is, and they basically started out as a jewelry business, and then they learned to examine eyes, and then it evolved into what it is today. They had the first X-ray machine in Cleveland. They had
that's a great story.
Sam Horner the third, who's operating it now.
The older Dr. Horner, not the junior, but the original Dr. Horner. He had one of the first radios too. Not, like ham radios.
The Cooper's Bookstore, you're talking about things changed from after the war. And before mid-1950s, when you went to school, you had to buy your own school books. And you went to Cooper's Bookstore. It was one of the places where you bought your school books. Well, in Buford Ellington, I believe, was the governor, and they passed a law that the school books would be provided by schools. And then, of course, buses started coming in. That really changed education a lot.
We've had several people on here talk about they had, like, the first child that went through school got the set of books, and by George, you took care of them because every one of those 9 brothers and sisters behind you had to use them. Yeah, it's been kind of fun doing this show, and we didn't think to start recording until about probably 7 months in, and we've got most of the shows recorded in one way or another, and they're not really well organized. Ron's going to work on that, I think.
C.J. Wilson's store down there, and it was an old-time store, and
we got to call Ron.
He would he still sold stuff, but it got to the point where his stuff was outdated, but it was a very interesting
When they
store.
closed, they had the button-up boots for the ladies and the collared shirt,
gosh.
the stank, all those stuff.
Okie dokie, caller. You are now live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello, this is Brenda.
Hey, Brenda, what's going on? You hadn't called us lately.
Well, I've been real sick.
Uh-oh.
And so I hadn't been able to do much of anything, but I just was laying here and I got to remembering when Fikes had their furniture store, they used to have a place upstairs and they had baby furniture. And it's been, I don't know how many years since I've seen any baby furniture in a furniture store.
Yeah.
And that's where I got my son's baby bed, and he's 47 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And
you give him a bigger bed now.
Well, I reckon he's got a bed.
Oh, okay.
I think when Mother passed away, I think I gave him the one she started out housekeeping with because he wanted it, and I believe that's what he's sleeping in.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just thinking. I heard somebody mention some of the stores down through there, and I thought, that's right. I got Jimmy's baby bed from Fikes Furniture Store all those years ago.
Okay. Fox right there on the same side where Stampers and everything was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was right beside Stampers.
Okay, Brenda, before the Village Mall, where did you shop for clothes?
Hardwick's. Right down there, right downtown. Mother would take me, she would take me school shopping for my clothes. We would go out the back door of the drugstore and down the alley and around the corner to Hardwick's.
Mm-hmm. And you better not play outside in your school clothes.
Boy, that's true. I had separate shoes, separate clothes, and everything for playing outside. And a lot of my outside clothes was handed down to me from my cousin Jackie.
Yeah.
How long did
to play in.
tell our listeners who's never heard? How long did your mother work for Central Drug?
72 years.
For the same place, 72
years. That's a pretty long time.
Did she work in the snack bar that whole time?
Oh, no, She worked, when she first started there, she worked over there on the side where they served the food. And then she moved into the jewelry department. And then Dr. Stickley and Dr. Jones sent her to Nashville to go to school, and she moved into the pharmacy. And she filled prescriptions, and then when she moved down on Key Street, when they passed away and sold the store, why she moved down on Key Street, and they kept the name Central, and then she was in the pharmacy for a good long while down there, but then they started getting all the new computers and things, and she decided she'd come out on the front counter, so she'd wait on the customers, but she didn't fill the prescriptions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But then she got to learning all the new computers down on the front. And I told her, I said, Mother, you could have stayed in the pharmacy longer. She said, well, I didn't ever think I'd learn that, she said.
Mm-hmm.
Your mother was a great lady. I know she took my money many times for lots of good food. So, and
she's my mother was a great lady, and if I could be half as good a woman as my mother was, I'd be tickled to death.
well, and your mom and Miss Fair too. They both worked there for many, 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 many years, didn't
They
they?
absolutely did. Ruth Fair, her and my mother became great friends.
Mm-hmm.
And they were friends from then on, and I've got cards that when my mother had me when my mother went to the hospital to have me, that mother's got cards from Ruth Fair congratulating her on the baby, and I've got pictures of the gifts she got.
Sympathy cards.
I can't do a thing with him, Brenda. Not a thing.
You can't do one thing with him.
That's right. That's right.
Well, all right.
Thanks, Brenda, for calling. It's always a pleasure.
Okay.
Good to hear from you. Bye-bye. I wanted to remind everybody that next week's show is going to be a Trail of Tears show. We have folks coming in that are putting on a play in Chattanooga called The Trail is a Circle, and we'll probably get to
Based around the Brainerd Mission?
based on the Brainerd Mission, and I don't know for sure, but I know it starts out with the Brainerd Mission. Matter of fact, if there's any young men around that are Cherokee or have Cherokee blood or could pass for Cherokee, they have one part for a young man, about 25-ish, that they have not filled at this moment, and they would love to talk to you about that. I think it's going to be really good. They're going to have, I think we'll have musicians here next week that'll play some of the songs, and then we'll talk about
The history of it.
history of how this story came to be.
Folks, basically that's pretty much, we're getting to the final there, and I want to give...
Are y'all amazed how fast this 2 hour passes?
Well, you said it would, and it did.
Yeah, because a lot of times I'll say, "Come, please be on the show. It's going to be 2 hours," and people go, "I can't possibly talk for 2 hours," but it moves fast and it's painless. And we'll have to have you guys back.
Final words, Jeff Powell. Take as much time as you like there, and listen to 2 hours though. But Jeff, comments or things that we didn't talk about yet you wanted to bring up real quick?
I'm not thinking of anything.
Okay, well, we'll go over to Paul, and maybe if you think of something, you come back with it.
I appreciate everybody that takes part in the site that Jeff and Laura started. And I know Jeff said, hey, will you be a moderator since you contribute a lot? And so I was happy to take that on. And I just encourage people to, even if you don't think it's something that anybody is interested in, we've got our iPhones, we've got our smartphones, whatever they are, whatever your flavor is. Snap pictures of your family scenes and post them. It could be things from the Village Mall. It could be things from the Cleveland
There's even
Mall.
some people that come on that are looking for things that used to be there in 1985, and I'm thinking that was just 85, but then to them it's history because they were little then.
And that's me. My time of interest is the expansion after World War II. The development of Keith Street, all those businesses that came in, all those developments. That's stuff that I think is neat. I've always asked a lot of questions about, and just contribute to the Facebook side.
And when we went from MC Hedrick's, that was local people, to Red Food Store, and when we went, we lost the little Bradford diners, and when Ron and I go anywhere, we're looking for that mom and pop place. And if you don't find really great food, you usually find really good people.
Yeah.
And it's you have a good time and you get good food too. We did bypass Granny's this week though. We resisted at
Too
Granny's.
big of a buffet.
Granny's in Cherokee, North Carolina has a buffet, and they have homemade pickled beets that they bring out in 5-gallon plastic tubs and pours them onto the food bar because people eat so many of them. And we said we just can't consume that much food tonight.
We've talked a lot about food. I think it's time to get out of here and go eat.
That's right. Well, thank you guys so much. We appreciate what you do on Facebook, and we appreciate the fact that we have such a nice working relationship with you guys.
Sequoia Birthplace Museum got a fair going on up there.
Today and tomorrow, they got the Catulla Warriors. Ducktown Basin Museum's got their fair going on today. Cowpea Festival, I'm headed that way. It runs from 11 to probably 7:30 or 8 o'clock. The little booths and things are going to be open to 5 o'clock.
You know what a cowpea is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody know what a cowpea is? Okay, good.
Tunnel Hill reenactment tomorrow. The federal troops get to win at 2 o'clock. Today, the Confederates get to win. And hunker down Tuesday. Don't get out in the high water and get yourself hurt.
Well, Paul just gave my speech there for me a few minutes ago. I agree with him 100%. Find those pictures. It could be anything. I found 3 old greasers pictures. They were standing there next to a flat tire, their hair slicked back. You knew it was from the 50s.
Cuffs rolled up. We found it in Grandma's stuff, and we thought, who are these people?
I figured my uncle had taken the picture. He was one that, and posted it on Facebook. Boom. In a few minutes, I knew who the 3 people were. The people says, there's a picture of my daddy I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the good ones.
Those are the good ones when somebody goes, oh my gosh, that's my grandma.
And it's just like hearing, talking about Bradford's there, and then someone called it who ate there,
right,
and knew the people worked there. That's just such a great feeling to do that. But you can help by doing that. Find those pictures. Folks, when your loved ones die, their history's gone too. So get your camera out or your iPhones and do a recording of them. Do a little video of them and save that. And also remember, someday we don't take pictures anymore that we can hold. So think about doing that, having
preserving them in some way,
some other way beside your iPhone, and the cloud goes out or it gets hacked and you lose all your pictures. It's a great thing to have as long as it works. But those hard copies are good. Archival ink, archival labels. Go up to Joe Rogers up here in town. You can buy those labels. Right on the back of on the labels, peel it off, put it on the picture. That way it never bleeds through the picture. So it's very, very important to do that. It's up to you. And as Morgan almost always says, yes, almost, we'll always remember Pearl Harbor.
But will we remember Aunt Pearl?
Hey, we'll see you next week here on Old Town Cleveland. See y'all.